Hello, everyone. And here we are on day 14 of our It's the Vagina monologue season. It almost feels surreal that we have walked 2 weeks and we are here on the last day of our journey, last leg of the journey. And yeah. And my internet might have a little fluctuation. So yeah, what a journey it has been just to witness the monologues, witness the sisterhood, the space and the sharing and the reflections and the support and the encouragement from everyone who has been watching. And today, I also held space for the spotlight on conversation with our, with the men in our lives, or brotherhood, kind of conversation on what does it mean being a man in this time and this. So it's it feels like full, and I can also feel a softness, a sadness, and a joy, and full. I must say, I feel full. I feel really full sitting here with you. And today's piece is also like that. It's a phenomenal piece, which is often forgotten about the vagina. And I'll be reading it with two more sisters, Kavya and Martina, and you have seen them on this journey. And we'll also be after that having a reflection around it. And then we will be joined by our entire team, our entire sisterhood, 15 of us on the screen. Hopefully everyone is able to join, since it's spread out. And what is special about today's piece, as we were reflecting, I had forgotten that there is, in this piece, one of the person is from Ukraine. So, and this piece is about birth and the pain and all that, the movement of birth. So I just also want to name and hold space for also what's happening, and that it's not a coincidence that this piece that we are doing it is also in some way acknowledging, holding space for this movement that is very alive for us as a human culture right now. Yeah. So I want to read about this piece in Eve Ensler's words. I had been performing this piece for over 2 years, and she's talking about the vagina monologues, yeah? When it suddenly occurred to me that there are no pieces about birth. It was a bizarre omission. Although when I told a journalist this recently, she asked me, when I told a journalist this recently, not she, he asked, what's the connection? Almost 21 years ago, I adopted a son, Dylan, who was very close in age to me. Last year, he and his wife, Shiva, had a baby. They asked me to be present for the birth. They asked me to be there. I don't think in all my investigation that I really understood vaginas until this moment. If I was in awe of them before the birth of my granddaughter, Colette, I am certainly in deep worship now. I was there in the room. We'll open the piece right now. I invite the sisters to join me in the reading of I Was There in the Room.
I was there when her vagina opened.
We were all there, her mother, her husband, and I, and the nurse from the Ukraine. With her whole hand up there in her vagina, feeling and turning with her rubber glove as she casually talked to us, like she was turning on a loaded faucet.
I was there in the room when the contractions made her crawl on all fours, made unfamiliar moans leak out of her pores, and still there after hours, when she just screamed suddenly wild, her arms striking at the electric air.
I was there when her vagina changed from a shy sexual hole to an archaeological tunnel, a sacred vessel, a Venetian canal, a deep well with a tiny stuck child inside, waiting to be rescued.
I saw the colors of her vagina. They changed.
I saw the bruised, broken blue, the blistering tomato red, the gray pink, the dark. Saw the blood like perspiration along the edges. Saw the yellow, white liquid, the shit, the clots, pushing out all the holes, pushing harder and harder. Saw through the hole the baby's head, scratches of black hair. Saw it just there behind the bone. A hard, round memory. As the nurse from Ukraine kept turning and turning her slippery hand.
I was there when each of us, her mother and I, held a leg and spread her wide, pushing with all our strength against her pushing, and her husband sternly counting 1, 2, 3, and telling her to focus and to push harder.
We looked into her then. We couldn't get our eyes out of that place.
Yeah. We forget the vagina, all of us. What else would explain our lack of awe, our lack of reverence?
I was there when the doctor reached in with Alice in Wonderland spoons. And there, as her vagina became a wide operatic mouth, singing with all its strength. First, the little head, the gray flopping arm, then the fast swimming body, swimming quickly into our weeping arms.
I was there later when I just turned and faced her vagina.
I stood and let myself see her, all spread, completely exposed, mutilated, swollen, and torn, bleeding all over the doctor's hands, who was calmly sewing her there.
I stood and her vagina suddenly became a wide, red, pulsing heart. I stood and her vagina suddenly became a wide, red, pulsing heart. The heart is capable of sacrifice. So is the vagina.
The heart is able to forgive and repair. It can change its shape to let us in. It can expand to let us out. So can the vagina.
It can ache for us, stretch for us, die for us, and bleed us into this difficult, wondrous world.
I was there in the room.
I remember.
Yes, we remember. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I think I'll invite you back. We can stay and just, move. So yeah. So just move. Just there. Yeah.
Sure, I am emotional.
Yeah.
I'm like, it must be incredible. Mm. You know what's so lovely is I'm realizing now is Eve just invited us all into the room.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all got to participate and witness and be a part of it.
Yeah. 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 It was very alive, really alive. Yeah, what I feel is that, how we forget the vagina and birthing and women who move through that birthing process. Yeah. I mean, it's that, yeah, for me, it's worship. That's the word. That's sitting very alive right now. Worship. Yeah. And I've always felt that. And I want to acknowledge all mothers, my mother, all mothers, and the womb and the vagina, and yeah, my mother's vagina and her womb, and that birthed me into this wondrous world. Yeah.
She chose her words so carefully, like the difficult, wondrous world, the light and the dark.
Yeah, the difficult, wondrous world. Yeah. And it is a difficult, wondrous world, indeed.
Yeah, I so wanted to share. It was so nice for me to be able to read you started at the moment when the baby's coming out and you see the scratch of hair behind the bone, the pubic bone.
Yeah.
And then I got to read about, you suddenly see the arm and then
Yeah.
this fast swimming body and swimming quickly into our weeping arms. It's just so beautiful. Just that moment.
Yeah.
Mm. Sure. It's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to acknowledge that, even for those here watching, that I was not meant to read this piece. um, as a part of me wanted also to have a woman who has given birth to be here to read this piece. Yeah. And yet the universe willed it very differently. Here are all three of us. Right? Yeah. And as Kavya and I were talking at the beginning, it really doesn't really matter. I feel, yeah. Yeah.
This was one of the pieces where I was very aware of, in the sense that I picked not the pieces, but the days that I was free. Like I was available. And so, but this one, I was very aware of when I was picking the day, I was very aware what it was about. And only when I read that I was there in the room, I realized what it was about. And I was there present when my sister birthed my nephew, and I was there in the room. So this reading actually took me back there to that room, to that experience. And what you described, Martina, that which one of us read, and you just mentioned about the hair and the flailing arms coming out. I saw that, and I also, like, I remember the colors. I remember staring at her vagina and the doctor sewing it up. And then holding my sister, and I was the one who was breathing with her and breathing into her. And because it's not there in my natural language to say focus, push harder, come on, you can do it. It's not there naturally. But then with my body, I was literally like holding her like a baby. And I remember feeling it, that yes, like you can do this. And also so much admiration for my sister, so much admiration, because she's my younger sister. And like, so I'm an elder sister, kind of stereotype, but not, but still there will be this elder sister um, characteristics in me. And then I'm like, wow, like I'm seeing the woman, and I'm seeing her strength, her power, and her presence. And then up until that point, knowing her and being the elder sister, I'm like, okay, I'll be there for her. And when she needs me, I'll do this, I will do that. And then at that moment, I'm just watching her do it. And I'm feeling like, wow, yes, my sister, I'm so proud is not the word, but I was delighted to see that power come through her. And then she had her second child, and because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to travel, or I would have been there in the room again. And now, as a mother of two children, when I see her talk, I'm even more delighted, like the way she says that I'm spending time away from my children, so I better, not make the most of it, but I better have your presence here with me. Like, she's that kind of person at work, like, I want you present. Every minute away from my child, you are also going to be present to the space that we are creating, and that at in the corporate world. So I'm in admiration of motherhood. Also, for me, the space that we entered after the piece was beautiful. Like, Martina, your tears were beautiful. Like, and that expression was so soft and so yeah, thank you for that. But for me, this piece is resonating slightly different, in the sense that with the vagina as a birthing apparatus is never forgotten in my experience. But it was what it was all about all the time. If we were speaking of the vagina growing up, there was a sacred element to it, because it was through which you birthed. You birthed. So I always acknowledged that I came from my mother's vagina, and it's part of our colloquial. You came from my vagina.
Cultural,
They wouldn't use the word vagina, but they'll say that you came from mine. And when the mine is said in such a way that that it's, and then we've had discussions like how it is, like you look at yours and you're like, how does this become big enough to so and so for me, all the other pieces were what was like forgotten and not acknowledged. So so I love, for me, it works how I'm coming back to the beginning when I'm reading the piece of how I know the vagina. And also what is very, very alive for me is with this piece is that there is this, at least in India, I can say, because I know it from my experience, and I'm sure it must be there the world over, the womaning and being a full woman happens only after you become a mother. That kind of like narrative floating around. And for me, it's interesting that the three of us present here haven't actually birthed. So in that way, in this new world, world that we are entering and we are exploring, and we have spoken about it in the past days also, and the discussion that Rekha had with the men in the morning. So it's kind of like at the threshold of entering a new era, if I may say that. So in that, acknowledging that I am a full woman, like to say that out, even though I'm not giving birth, I'm supporting in birth, I'm part of the community, and I'm still that whole full woman. I feel that needs to be heard and to be said, because things like have been fed into me, but good on me that I did not receive it or accept it, allow myself to absorb it, that you are feeling bad because she's giving birth, you are feeling bad, you're depressed because you're not a mother yet, like everything will be all right if you become a mother, and you're aging, you're having you are having problem with your menstruation cycle and hormonal cycle because you're not a mother, but there could be some truth to that. There could be, because, and I feel that while we acknowledge being fully women, full woman, even though we do not experience the, at least yet, the act of giving birth, there is truth to it that until my grandmother's generation, whether we like it or not, and whether it sounds politically correct or not, the woman's body was designed as a birthing machine. That is why we have so many eggs in our body. And my grandmother had 6 children. Her mother had 13 children. So I feel it's in humility, but in my power, I want to see accepted that between my great grandmother and me, there hasn't much of evolution, bodily evolution that has happened, but a lot of evolution in the way we live and move in this culture, especially women, has happened. So I feel there is a gap, and I want to acknowledge that there possibly the body could be feeling it, and we are all learning about it together. We are all learning to move into this new phase of being a woman, being a menstruating woman who is not, who's deciding, or who's not giving birth. Yeah.
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 So
Thank you. Yeah.
that,
Thank you.
that all that is really a life for me, and I wanted to voice
Yeah.
that.
Well, thank you so much for initially sharing that. And I'm sure that so many watching will also resonate. I resonate with what you just shared, many things that you shared. And I feel the whole She Stands Tall project only started because I asked that question, who am I if I'm choosing not to be a mother and to give birth? What's the purpose of my menstruation? What's the purpose of the 500,000 eggs that exist in my ovaries collectively? You know, what is their role? What is of me being a woman? If I'm not in that, yeah, if I choose not that, and it's not an easy movement in a culture narrative which is so driven by women and children, because the first question I'll get asked anywhere I go is, do you have children? That's the first question I ask. And if I say no, for me, I'm not sad. And there's a very conscious choice I did even when we entered marriage, you know, almost like that. So, but people, oh, so sad, you know, like that. And it's like, you know, it's like I wonder. And for me, it's not like I'm seeing mothers who have given birth and were so happy and really enjoying their children. I don't see that cultural, social makeup where women are even given space to really enjoy motherhood. I don't even see that narrative, that those who are saying that it almost sometimes feels, you know, that birthing and motherhood has shifted so much in today's time that I don't know if mothers really are they're so tired. There's the support system is missing. I want to give voice to that, you know, because giving, like, we were in the room. That's the narrative, you know, we were there with her. It's even in this monologue, it's not like, you know, I gave birth. It's like we were there. It was, they were husband and there were a few other people, and we have to be there through her coming out and what she has moved through, woman who births, and who is really, how many women can say that I have this full support structure who fed me, held me, nurtured me, allowed me to sleep, that I just wake up and I feed and I eat. Then when the baby sleeps, I sleep and I'm not doing anything else. We don't have that system. Most women don't move through that system either, right? So in a way that I think that's why I think motherhood also needs that the choice has to be there for a woman, I feel, whether she chooses to be a mother or not. And there has to be a choice in that. And yeah, there has to be a support system in that. You know, I mean, as I also worship the vagina and the birth and motherhood, I also wish to say that um, it's not a one woman's journey. It's the
Mhm.
responsibility of the entire community
Mhm.
to support birth and
Yeah.
mother and a baby, and
Yeah, it's really sold as a one-woman story
I
journey, though,
know,
isn't
Yeah.
it?
isn't,
Yeah.
And
yeah,
even
and
as we sit here, I feel so guilty because I'm at the age now where a lot of my friends are having children, and there's the isolation, and I haven't been fully supportive. I've supported where I can, but there's
yeah,
that sacrifice. There's that
Yeah.
word that came up here. It's a sacrifice in this day and age. If you don't have the support and you're a working mother and it's a sacrifice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm, I'm yeah.
I like, yeah.
I'm going to bring some of our
And
sisters
our
are here.
sisters. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I'm going to bring them as well. We have Yannick, Megha, and Sunita.
Okay.
I'm going to bring them in, and maybe slowly it's 7 o'clock. So I want to bring whoever comes. I want to bring everyone in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
this
The
is a
party has
great,
started.
this is I feel a great monologue. Birth.
Yeah,
And we have a mixture of
celebration.
women who have chosen to give birth, be a mother, and there are many
Yeah.
of us who have chosen a different route. So we have a mix of we are aunties and we are many roles, but so I think it's a beautiful space to just welcome and have everyone in. Yeah, welcome Megha, welcome Sunita. We're waiting.
Yeah.
I think.
I wrote down so many notes.
Oh yeah.
I had a lot I wanted to talk about,
Yeah,
but
please.
now I'm like, I don't know.
You
One thing I wanted to mention is there's an Instagram account called Badass Mother Bertha. And through that account, I got to see the vagina in the way that's described in this piece.
Yeah.
Because it's a taboo topic. Giving birth is very taboo. You don't see it. Women, I don't know in which generations, even now I have to inquire sometimes with my friends what happened, or like what happens, like let's talk about it. I think there's sometimes you want to forget. But yeah, so this Instagram account has been very nice to visually see women giving birth, to see the vagina becoming that operatic thing, it becomes something unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Like when you spoke about the blood looking like sweat on her lips.
Yeah.
Like it's really like a thing. Yeah. And I also want to acknowledge, like, my mom telling me that giving birth was one of the most empowering experiences she's ever had, and she gave birth 3 times. And my friend Amy, who's here in the photo, who also shared with me her birth story to her beautiful son, and how it was also such a sacred and empowering experience. And then I say that, and then some women don't have the empowering or sacred experience. They can have traumatic experiences and disconnected experiences. And it is so there's a lot of no consent that can happen in the room, and that came up in our other monologues of doctors not asking, just doing. And the duck lips showed up again in this one. The Alice in Wonderland spoons are those duck lips. Hi, sorry. Yeah, so it's such a big, beautiful, complicated, another facet to being a woman that perhaps we have to create more space for us to share and talk about.
Yeah. I think we have to take it back. I think it's birth right now is not in women's hands. It's been taken over. It's taken out of our hands. We've been, I think we even forget that for 100,000 years we have been birthing. The doctor and the medical industry is just very recent. It's a recent movement. My parents were birthed at home, and I was birthed in a hospital, you know, so it's in my life, it is just a generation, such a huge movement. Now I can't conceive in Kerala, birth happening at home.
My sister was birthed at home, like my
So she
mother
had a
gave
home.
birth to my sister at home
Yeah.
because she did not want to leave me and get admitted into a
Mm.
hospital for 2 or 3 days. So that's why she decided, she says. And now after my sister gave birth to 2 children, she says, she's like, now she's scared, like, I don't know how I did it. And that I see that fear being played out, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it. What if this had happened? What is, so 35 plus years after birthing, she's like going into that narrative. And yeah, so thank you for saying that, because I feel concerned about the fear narrative grabbing us and taking that taking that power yet again from women.
Yeah, sisters who joined us, Sari, Megha, Sunita, and Yannick was here as well. I think Yannick, I think her video is off. Okay. Ah, there she's at the beach.
Yes, I'm at the beach, so I'm a bit, you know, I want to stay a bit incognito because I'm moving around. So
Okay.
I just make a very quick sharing. I didn't listen to the whole reading and discussion, but what I can relate to from what has been said, yeah, is that it's not in the hands of women as it used to be anymore. And I myself, I had 2 C-sections because the doctor decided that would be better for me and my children. And yet again, I before that, before the first my first child, I really did a lot of work on myself to overcome the fear of birthing. And then it so happened that it was decided that it would be a C-section, and I didn't really have my words to say in any case. So yeah, so just wanted to share that from where I am.
Yeah. Thank you, Yannick, for joining. Yeah. And this is, as I want to say, those are watching, you will see the screen like become bigger and bigger. Yeah. So we are birthing, like all our participants, all our sisters are, you know, the big sisterhood is getting birthed right in front of you. So, you know, so yeah. So Yannick, are you going to be here for some more time? Are you going to keep your?
Yes, for me,
Okay.
maybe 5-10 minutes, depending
Okay.
on how I'm with my parents at the beach.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I understand.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Yes. So I am hoping that more of sisters join. I see Neha, I see Malini. Yeah, welcome everyone. Yeah. We are how many of us now? 9 of us. So 5 or 6 more of us. Yeah, so I don't know if you all watched the piece. And Yannick, is that your mom?
Yes, this is my mom.
Oh.
Mais écoute, tu dis bonjour. Non?
Bonjour.
Non, c'est mes amis. Ça dit
Hello.
bonjour. These are my friends online. Oh, hello. Just say hello, my group of women friends. We just women circles very together. Happy to meet you online.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you here. Yeah. What a blessing to have. Yeah.
Thank
also
you.
To have one of our moms here. Yeah. So yeah, we continue this conversation, and I also would like to hear how has it been for everybody. We are on the last day. Tomorrow this time we'll be not doing this. 14 days, yeah.
For me, this piece was very evocative. To be able to connect very deeply.
You talk louder, Sunita.
Yeah, your voice, yeah. Sound is less, Sunita.
Can't
Yeah,
hear me well? Is it?
Yeah. Now it's better. I think you
It's
came
better?
closer. Yeah, now it's better. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just saying that I have a close personal relationship with this peace because of my own birthing experience, and because I feel that my journey of healing started in that room, because I realized that going into labor, and fortunately it was natural birth for me with my daughter, and I was actually not feeling the pain because I was not in my body. And though it's considered to be a good thing, okay, the pain tolerance is so high, but it was not pain tolerance, right? It was dissociation from the body. And I think from that point of noticing that this is not how it is supposed to be, and to be a mother embodied is what started my journey of being a therapist, going into therapy, learning a lot. So for me, the mother and the birth have great amount of significance in my life. And I also feel that as a family, it has been greatly impactful because the person who was in the room was my spouse, Shiva, and I do feel that it also helped birth the connection to the feminine for him. Because as a father, his journey has been to connect to his own feminine. So I think it is a gateway, the birthing. And it's not just the baby who gets birthed. It is the birthing of the mother, the father, the connection to your soul, and an experience which, it doesn't need to be positive. It was not positive for me. I had a preemie. She came into soon and had so much of difficulty as I went through the process, and it's not made easier by the external world out there, which expects week on week you to be a particular way. And if you're not, then so much of intervention goes in. And to later realize that the difficulty is about not being able to connect to your body, and then the birthing becomes very unnatural. So that has been my experience, and I resonate with what got birthed here with the peace and how it has touched me.
This is a very interesting piece for me, but before I start, Yannick looks like earth goddess with a headgear of this tree. So very interesting. So I'm not a mother, so it's very interesting that quite a few in this call now are not mothers. And I was thinking that, in my background in the Nordic countries, like everywhere else, we used to have very big families because women gave a lot of births. And but also the children died very young, often. And I'm just wondering whether this, obsession about birth is because people have usually 1, 2, or maximum 3 children nowadays. I mean, there are bigger families, of course, but many families only have one child. And that one child is so precious, where earlier women just gave birth. And I'm also thinking that so what I'm trying to say is that I'm wondering how that was earlier, when you had 10 to 13 children. And how did it feel to be a mother in that situation? Also, resources were different. Access was different. So that led me to think about, what about those mothers? Like, I would have made a terrible mother, I think. Of course, that's not proven. So I don't have a comparison group with the Sari with a child or children, but because there are a lot of women who had children who should not have had children, because they in fact hated their children. A lot of trauma has come from that. So there's also this, we talk about dark feminine, and I'm not talking about dark feminine in the sense here that there are those feminine features which are quite scary, but I'm talking about the darkness that may come into the mother-child relationship. And I think that would be also important to look at, that not every birth is a blessed birth in the sense that the mother blesses the child. It may be very traumatic from the beginning for various reasons, either own traumas or from the birthing itself, or whatever has transgressed. But it's something every one of us has experienced, because we wouldn't be on this call without having been birthed. So in a way, what I sensed through this piece is that, yes, you can go back and rebirth yourself through these stories, as if you're the child who's coming out and whose head is going to be. So the piece, in a way, holds that space to be reborn. And I think that's important. And perhaps the whole monologues, because it's ending now in this piece, is about rebirthing.
Yeah, before we read the piece, we were just chatting, and I think Reka mentioned something about, even if you don't birth a child, you're birthing as a woman all the time in a different way. And I've experienced that since being having awakened, I guess, in myself and in my life. And I feel even an idea coming to you, or creativity coming, and you can see what I'm doing with my hands, it's going down and up. It's a birthing. And just even when stuff comes to you and you bring it in and offer it out into the world, I recognize that as a kind of birthing as well. And again, the more in touch I'm becoming with my yoni and with my yoni, I'm realizing, oh, even if I'm like sit here and move it, there's the loosening down there, the getting to know down there, I think really helps with the creative force of birthing. Yeah. And as we sit here, I'm like, my wish for women who choose to have children is to be an awakened woman, an empowered woman, to know herself, so that when she goes to have her child, she can do it from a space of from that space. And I know even I can say that, and I've had friends who've been in that space and it didn't work out the way she wanted. So that happens too. And I don't really know what to say or to do with that. But that's really my wish, like for women stepping into to having a child or birthing is that choice, and to know herself and to be able to say what her needs are. Oh my God, and to ask for the support she needs, because we're unable to ask. I've only started to learn how to ask now. I was sick a few weeks ago and I was like, can you please cook a meal for me? I'm not feeling well, you know, like I actually asked my mother. She laughed at me. She did it. But it was quite like, in a way, like overconfident to be like, to ask for support. It's not part of it hasn't been normalized so much, you know. So how are we going to create an environment where women support women, where it's not like, it's not part of our normal way of being. Yeah. So it's just a wonder, I guess.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight the choice word that you use, and to maybe create a pause there for all of us. The choice, because it's not whether we have, I think this I've seen so much, it's not whether a woman has natural birth or whether she has C-section or she has a difficult birth. At every moment checking in with her as to what is your choice, what is it that you need, that she has a say in the choosing of the direction of what she feels and what I want. And that is because when I speak to some of the birthing doulas who are really working in the natural space, I have a very close friend in Israel, and this is what she was telling me, that you have to you have to be with the woman and create that space in those, even because you can plan even a natural birth. If you're talking about birth, even today, because there's so much conscious, everyone wants natural birth. It may not go the way you want, because that gateway isn't complete. It's not in your hand. You know, you are being taken by nature, and you know, it's almost you're being taken by death. Because till a woman births and she comes out, she doesn't know if she's going to survive it. It's almost meeting death, looking death in the face. And so it's a huge thing for a woman at every step of a birthing until she gives birth and she comes out, that so that she can be tuned in to her. So that awakening woman that you're talking about, Martina, it is so important that she knows, and she knows that she can ask. And many times, some of my close friends who chose natural birth, but in that moment, when there is a little bit of disturbance, suddenly everything is given to the doctor and her voice, and nobody stands with her. She knows she can do it. I don't need you. I know what's happening, but nobody stands with her. Family also doesn't, because everyone's fear. And in that, it's not the birthing, but that of not having consent becomes a bigger trauma for the mother. When to get into the role of the mother takes time then, you know. So I feel like this choice and consent, and I am the authority on my body. I mean, that is something that I think we really have to start owning that. And that has to, I think we can create it, because the system is not going to create that. It doesn't work in their favor that women have authority. It's not, it doesn't work in the system's favor, but it's something that we, as I feel, have to really hold and see how we mirror it to women. And you know, and also this, I know that I come from a matriarchal this past, but I will not glorify it, because I know when I see, like my father, there's, you know, 5 kids for my grandmother, and my mother are 6. When I see the people, I know that they were not held and loved and enjoyed. The mother had no capacity. My grandmother had no support. They had natural birth. I mean, I wonder if even that was not there. I wonder how it was, but you know, and before that, it was like how Kavya earlier was saying, they were 13 or 14 kids. But I also know in the joint family system, it's okay. But as it kept shifting, you know, it's, I don't know if the mothers were really there for the children, or even if they have the capacity to be there. How do you What nourishes?
One thing,
Yeah, go ahead, Yanni.
one thing I'd like to share that came to me. You mentioned that word. It's also about some way dealing with death.
Yeah.
And what I felt very, what I felt very a lot at that time, which I couldn't put words on, but which I can put words on, is in some way the death of a young woman to be a mother. Because as it was highlighted at some point, there's a lot of sacrifice, but there's a lot of losing yourself as well. Of course, losing yourself to birth yourself as a mother.
Yeah.
But then as a woman, there's that part of yourself that you lose, and it comes very brutally, you know. Because although I felt as from the day I was pregnant, I can say I felt I progressively became a mother. But from feeling your mother and being pregnant and having the baby in your hands, and as you say, without the proper support of the community, it's something very brutal.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the love, there's the joy, there's the happiness, but as a young mother, as a mother, I felt, although I had support of my mother-in-law at that time, I felt very, very alone. And and what do I do now? How do I do that? Yeah, so the death of the young woman, maiden kind of young woman. Yeah.
And I also remember one of our sisters who recently really went through this whole conscious birthing journey, Vaishnavi. I mean, she would have loved to be there today, but, this is her baby sleeping, feeding cycle. So, so that's why she's not here. Otherwise, I had invited her to come and share her journey. And we also have to acknowledge that, and I haven't birthed, but I know that birthing will change the vagina. It's not there's a death of the woman. I think there is a death of the old vagina as well. The vagina will change in ways that you cannot comprehend. The vagina will change. Imagine something which is so tiny becomes this big to birth something, and when it comes back, of course it will. So, so then how do you support her to get back her earlier? No, you'll never get back the earlier, but even to find that, that part down there, to really find the healing and the time. We don't talk about this. We really don't talk about that journey, not the birthing, but after, postnatal care.
I want to say something about the vagina. Like, I'm an auntie, so each time I hear Kavya speak, like now my nephew is like 21, my niece is 13. I've been very, very present. And back then it didn't make sense, but where I am today, it feels so strongly in my body. Like, when any vagina, whenever a woman vagina open and she bursts, like whoever's present there, whether we are conscious or not, that vagina is gonna suck us. Like, I felt now like how I was sucking, and I was pulled out, and something happened to me. A lot of things happened to me. And I don't even have a sense of I don't have a child. There's nothing missing in my life, because unconsciously back then I went, maybe it was too much for me to even to be conscious to what I was going through. It would have been too much for me. It would have been all my trauma would have waken up. But I feel like now whenever vagina opens and bursts, an entire community is burst. If only we are able to become present to this movement. Because the moment the community gets burst again, then there's not even a question who's going to show up for her? Who's going to take care of her? It will just happen. So yeah, I feel as an auntie, I've been birthed many times. I have one small nephew now, he's 6, so I've been birthed again. And it's a beautiful experience. It's an experience of, I was blessed, my sister womb sucked me in. Her vagina pulled me out. When my brother was born, I was 10 years old. That was the first time I saw what it meant. And I was very amazed, because my mother made birthing felt like easy. We went to see her. She went to the clinic in the morning. My brother came out. For me, it was like he came out at 12:30 p.m. And next day, my mom was back and she looked fine and fit, and she made birthing look easy.
I just, Megha, I just want to acknowledge that Yannick is going to leave.
Yeah.
So just want to give a shout out. Yeah. And, I mean, this journey wouldn't have been the same without you, Yannick, yeah. And
Thank you.
so have fun at the beach. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much to all the sisters who are on the call, to all of the sisters who are in the group, to the men today who did a fantastic sharing. That was really, really powerful. And thank you to Eureka for bringing that initiative, holding us together. So more holding space, more conversations, more power. Love you all.
Love
Bye.
you. Blessed.
Bye.
Blessed be. I also want to name all the sisters, who aren't here, Preeti and Pratibha, and Neha was here, but it's not here now, I think. Ramya, who else?
Ruchi.
Ruchi, yes, Ruchi isn't here as well. Shreya. Who else?
And there's Mudita, right?
Mudita, yes, Mudita, yes. Just name all of them. They are here with us in spirit and not in physical space with us. So yeah. And I feel it's a great way that we are conversing about birth, the last, this gateway of birth. And this is, I want to say this also because I always sometimes, I also take this as an opportunity also for education as part of our journey of awakening women, because the process of creation, holding, birthing is very different for a woman and a man. Yeah. This process, 9 months of sitting in this and letting something grow, then take it all in. So it's an inner movement. There's a whole inner journey happening for a woman in the literal biological sense. And even if she wishes, she has to go through that. There is no halfway saying, okay, bye, I don't want this, I'm going to quit. You really can't do that. And to go through the process. And yet when you birth, you really don't know how it is going to be. And it still doesn't end there. It still takes time for the child, for a mother and the child. We know it takes another 3, 4, 5 years for them to fully feel, to let each other go. So this process is also part of a woman's process of creation, of anything to birth anything. We move through this inner birthing again and again and again. Any project or anything, I want to say that our process is very different, and it's not usually mirrored outwardly in the world. It need not be seen, or but it's happening for us. It's a very inner birthing process, and it's very different from the world process of these business plans and discussions and all these that I see so much in the corporate world. It's such a different movement. And I know that in my life, being in that movement for so long, it always felt like I had to not be in my body. It did not support my body and my rhythm. And it's when I switched out of all of that is that I feel now that, like yoga at this time, this, like this clock disciplined life that is so much of a part of the yogic tradition, everything. I did it for 20 years, but I feel it's not part of my body. And I don't know about every other woman, but I know it's definitely not part of that system. Does not work for me. And because every 28 days I bleed, and all the system, every routine goes for a toss. For me, it doesn't sit there. I can't do a 41-day habit change. 21 days is enough for me. So some of these things I wanted to name, because we as women, we keep looking at these things and we keep trying to beat ourselves to follow that which our body is always fighting. So yeah, that war is what I have learned to not do with my body. The war ends with my body. Yeah, I don't know how birth, yeah, this I have to name this and to even, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for naming that, Rekha, because I so resonate with that because of my experience with yoga and dancing, having to show up every day and maintain the body no matter what, push through. And I'm not talking about maintaining the body for appearance, but for performance. Like we are following the rhythm of day and night and not our menstrual 28-day rhythm. And it took me a while to come to terms, let go, and accept that every 28 days, no matter what routine I have and I try to set up, it's going to be thrown off. Those 3 or 4 days, I have to listen to my body. I cannot force anything on her. And yeah, and that itself, coming into that, accepting that, agreeing to that, took me 3 years. Took me 3 years to fully be okay with that. So I feel it's very important to name it with all of this going on, that I want to do a 21-day thing. I don't want to miss my gym at all. I want to be disciplined, and it's a different kind of discipline a woman's body and rhythm asks for. And maybe find that beauty and connection and conversation with that rhythm. And I'm also going to take this opportunity, and plus one Megha, like I really resonate with slipping into that role of support. I feel full being in that role of a supportive aunt. That's what the world calls it, auntie. And I got sucked into my sister's vagina and got thrown out when the babies came out. So yeah, I completely resonate with the feelings and emotions in your words.
I think listening to Kavya and Megha, what comes to me, and when she said aunt, this is sometimes why I like Indian languages, because they give the role of a mother to an aunt. Like in Malayalam, we call Charema, Velima, and I'm sure in Hindi also.
Even here versions, just sorry, like I'm just chipping in, like I have my Periyamma, I have my Sinnamma. Yeah. So we still have it.
We also have Perima, Chinnaman. In Hindi, it is Masi, which means like mother.
Like mother.
Yeah, Ma
Jaisi. Yeah, Ma Jaisi.
So just for explaining for Martina and Sari, it means little mother, big mother, small mother. So all the women get called like that. So it's like the allo mother concept and evolved. In research today, they say that children need allo mothers, many mothers, other mothers, and it was already there in the system. Yeah, the way women they called.
It's a peculiar thing that it's very language and culture specific. If I use the word aunt, it's only would be referring to my father's sister. And if somebody calls me aunt, I always feel like I'm 120. It's the way the word is used, and I know and there's this interesting thing that when you shift something which is so integral to a culture and language use, and you translate it to a language that doesn't have it. It doesn't have those different layers. It gets a very different meaning. And I think in that sense, you know, the translation loses that essential thing that there are degrees and there are villages, and there are like vagina is a village. It means that also that vagina is a village of others who also participate in it, where those relationships are extremely important. And in the at least in the so-called modern, postmodern, or whatever, modern is not perhaps the word that I would use, but I'll use it because people recognize that European or American world, where everything is, it's aloneness in a different way. You're left alone. You're not choosing to be alone. You're left alone. Also, that is changing. I'm not saying that it is still, but it's changing. But if I think of my mother's generation, they were left alone. I mean, literally.
And this is curious for me about Aunt Sari, you know, that for us, for me, it's a British English word, you know. My aunts here, like if I call them aunt, they will not respond. My aunts have told me long time back, do not use that word for me. You call me, you know, either, you know, Elema or Williamma or, you know, Cheriamma or whatever what their role is. Don't give me this one flat aunt, you know. So we all learn to call them, you know, the Malayalam word. But I'm curious, if you're, so what would mother sister be called? Is there a word for that?
For what?
Mother sister. When you say aunt, it's father sister is what you said.
Oh yes, also aunt. You just have the aunt. That's it.
Or you just for all, whether it's mother sister or father sister. Oh,
yeah. And often it's also used in a way that aunts are those who, you know, bit old. So it has a connotation to age also. Like if you're called aunt, you're like, what?
I see where you're coming from, Sari, but when I became an auntie, that suddenly definition changed for me because I came into that role. So for me, that changed. I didn't feel old. I felt that the definition of aunt has changed since I have become an auntie now.
Yeah, if I translate that to Finnish, which is täti, which actually means that it's an older woman too.
Oh, wow. Interesting, huh? Yeah. How language can also completely change and create that loneliness or keep.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, that's what you're saying. Very true.
I wanted to add something in, which is not quite related to the discussion we're on now, but I'm not sure when we're signing off. But I don't feel like we've mentioned it, and it's around the body intelligence of birthing.
Yeah.
And that's like the primordial it.
Yeah.
That maybe is not respected or seen or known, that maybe also even some women don't even know about or don't listen for it. Maybe they're fortunate to experience it in birth when it starts happening. But someone shared it with me before, and I read about it, and I was in awe of how the body takes over. Yeah. And one of our sisters shared her story today or yesterday, and I read it and I was like, yes, there's this, you don't give birth. It's nature doing everything. But now we are like, push, do this, do that. Yeah, so I just want to honor that higher power, the natural impulse. That's part of us, and also like yeah, I want to say beyond us, but it's not beyond us because we are part of it. That, yeah, just that sacred body intelligence. I don't know if, yeah, I think that's the word for it. Body's intelligence.
Like in Constellation, we say that mothers are in service of nature. Nature takes over.
And that connects to what Yannick was mentioning, and that's why there is a death, because nature doesn't really like discriminate as such. So when a new life is being born, nature gives everything available at that time to that new life that is being born. So at that time, I feel the mother dies a little death, or the woman, not the mother. When the mother is birthed, the woman experiences that something that they may or may not call it a beautiful loss, but that sacrifice happens.
And even more than body intelligence, you know, we I feel like we many times forget that the microcosm, the microscopic very intelligence, the intelligence is built into the the cells are intelligent already. Our cells, we don't realize that. I mean, the world, that the way it's designed today, it just takes us away from ever focusing to what we already have. How is this functioning? You know, when you say bodily, how are we functioning? How are we? I mean, if humanity could pause even that, that's a wonder. It's a wonder, like all these, our entire function of our, you know, it's like this intelligence is just there. Yeah.
That all requires that that pause. You have to stop. You have to slow down. You have to have time. Even I don't mean time like hours, but you need to stop to wonder. Like one of the dialogues talked about vaginal wonder.
Yeah.
I think that was Martina was reading that piece, I think.
Yeah.
And in a way, just wonder that how, like Martina, you spoke about the birth. How many women stop and say, "How does the child know to go to come out?"
Right.
How does, you know, how do, like Reka, you said that, how is it that my body knows? You know, I can lift a finger. How does the finger know that I can lift it? Or how do I know how to lift the finger? Or who lifts the finger? So the whole aspect of being curious about this wonderful aspect of body and how does it function here in this world, and how little we appreciate that.
Yeah. Woo-hoo. I think, yeah, I feel like we are kind of moving into closing of 14 days. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Bravo to you, Reka. Bravo.
Bravo to all of us.
Incredible that you held space for so many consecutive days.
And nature, you know, for guiding and keep coming back and reminding that, you know, that intelligence. I had to keep, you know, remembering that someone else is running the show. Surrender, let go. There's nothing you need to do. You know, just let go. Don't worry about the correctness, that it should all be great or wonderful or it should be successful. You know, it's already. Yeah, I think that's my learning. And what I have realized is again and again is when I take up something which is beyond my capacity, it becomes very easy to surrender, because then I anyway know I don't know how I'll do it. so then I see it happening. Yeah. So I think that is also something which is precious. And for all of you, for all of the 14 women, you know, you have, I mean, people don't know, but we have our own group where so much sharing goes on. And, you know, it's not shutting here. It continues somewhere else for us, you know, and for that's this mirroring of that sisterhood and women supporting women, and that we can do really big, we can move, and then that we don't have to do it all. We can each share parts and lift, you know, lift the burden off, or share the burden, you know, even of the collective pain. We can take parts and let it release it, you know. So I feel like that's also a huge movement through all of this, right? That we have all also moved through. And there is life before VM and there is life after VM. And I'm sure even for those watching, and yeah. Are there any, is there, I remember that, I just now remembering that. I had also asked, is there a word or a phrase that we can close with that is very much from your monologue that you, so not a sentence, okay, just a word or a phrase, anything that, you know, like the vaginal wonder Sari said, that Marina had read, something like that. Do you have anything that is like present that
I
we
can start.
Please start, Sari.
Pussycat fish.
Since I just read cunt, so here is one more female dog.
Oh,
She's very happy. She's extremely happy to be here. Okay. The girl. So yeah, I thank you so much. I became more comfortable with all these words, which I was shy myself, being 40, shy to say my own vagina and cunt. And yeah, it made me more comfortable. And I'm opening up to so many conversations and just sitting in surrender to and connectedness to so many women, wonderful women. Yeah.
yes. Cunt. So we'll continue from Malvi gave us the word cunt.
For me, the word from my piece is orgasm. And yeah, to be able to say that in a group, and yeah, to be held by all of you, and the gentleness and the compassion, and feeling very deeply touched. As I touch my body, I feel I hold all of you and your voices. So thank you, everybody here, and the sisters who are there in spirit. Just taking a moment to acknowledge them as well, wherever they are. And thank you, Rekha. I mean, I think bringing everything together and holding the container and birthing, I think birthing anew in each one of us and in this space, I think deep gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I've just gone with in deep worship. It came from the piece we just read, in deep worship of the vagina and of woman in all her ways and facets and ways of being, all of it, just in deep worship.
Deep worship.
And then I'll say in deep worship of Rekha. Oh, you have shook something up, like with this vagina monologues. Yeah. You've enabled me to empower myself more. And yeah, it's that you talk about the micro, like each woman here has been affected and is now infecting other women. So it's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I have the word I remember. We remember from today's last line. We remember. We will remember as well. We remember.
It's a line for me. I know you asked for a word, but this is the poof that happened for me from all the readings. The heart is able to forgive and repair. It can change its shape to let us in. It can expand to let us out. So can the vagina. I mean, for me, it's beautiful to compare, see them as one. Yeah, seeing them as one is. Yeah, Rekha, like, yes, like, just so, I feel happy. I feel happy to see you take on this yet again. And so, just make it happen. You're magic, Rekha, you're magic. And I'm grateful and more power to you. And I'm so happy to be again part of that support. I'm just loving being like that one off. Yeah, one off. Yeah.
May we do many, many phenomenal things together. Yeah, maybe collectively move. Birth new worlds and new bodies and
Yes.
yeah.
For me, it's from this second monologue on the second day is you have to love her in order to love the vagina. It's a really, yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah. You have to love her in order to love the vagina.
I'll just, before we finish, I'll just, why I chose pussycat and fish.
You don't need to explain, but I would love to hear the explanation as well.
There's this, yeah, I'm sure you have heard this old song, Pussycat, Pussycat, I Love You. And, you know, I came to my mind, I was like, yeah, I wonder if the person knew what he was singing about. And that wonder is, and that playfulness is in that song. And fish is like, it's supposed to smell like pussy. So if I order fish, it's supposed to smell like fish. And I thought those are so wonderfully, you know, unused words that I have new reverence for fish.
I remember that line now from the monologue. Like, if I order fish, I want it to taste like fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even the ball.
And thank you, Rekha. This, I think this 14 days, you know, you in the beginning you were like, oh, 14 days. But in the end, you know, I'm sure there have been all kinds of moments in between. And I also the tiredness and oh my God, what today? And it's the same life as the vagina goes through. It's not, it's life. It's life. It's not some, you know, beaten out skin of a former tiger. It is the tiger.
Yeah. It is the tiger and it is life. I think that's
Mm.
life is, life has. And to stay in life is to move through all of it. Some days
Mm.
you want to move towards it, and sometimes you want to move away from it, and it's okay.
Mm.
The vagina monologues. Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
My book is.
And you know what I'm remembering, Rekha? It just stayed with me. Against all odds. Us women, we like against all odds. The vagina against all odds. Like even women in war against all odds. In relationship, every scenario, it's like against all odds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to remember that just like the vagina, which becomes so huge and births a body, I think we do that all the time. We have also the capacity of our heart also to expand. And then it also needs the time to also kind of come back into its, or the shape. And so I think we never give ourselves this, we are not seen enough in how we hold the world so invisibly, how women hold the world so invisibly. And I think we have to see it. We have to see it, and I hope more and more men also learn to see it and not feel threatened and scared of it. And to know that they can just do a little this and then they're held and it's okay. And how we learn to receive that as well, and to know that it's, yeah, that. And we'll just close with the sentence that I heard today, and I read it even in the men's thing, but I don't know, that sentence really touched me. And that's where it's a Shiva Shakti movement. And instead of masculine and feminine, I want to use this word, this part of man must be the mountain so she can flow like the river, rage like the wind, pour like the rain, float like the cloud. So there's also something about the man and woman's movement. How when one, like all flavors of the elemental, woman, for her to also experience that. What does it, how does a man find that movement? And how does a woman also support that? Because it cannot exist without each other. The mountain is not separate from the wind and the rain and the, all of that. The river, yeah, I think. Yeah, so may this open more possibilities, and yeah, maybe do more exciting, wondrous things. And maybe as a closing, let's just maybe shout out the word vagina. So just saying vagina, vagina.
Vagina, vagina,
Vagina.
vagina, vagina,
Vagina.
Vagina. Vagina. So